Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we're talking about the sci-fi horror film M3GAN. No, M3GAN, directed by Gerard Johnstone and released January 6th, 2023. It's an insurrection on the senses, so some would say.
That was a good one.
This was the first time I had ever seen this movie. I'll be honest. It came out last year, and there was a lot of buzz about it. You know how we just talked about this last week when we did The Purge, about like Blumhouse and it's like a coin flip for me. And for some reason, they take some weird, ideas and interesting things, which I guess sentient AI run amok isn't that weird of an idea. It's been done a billion times, but still, I don't know. This one was just like, I don't really have any care for this one. But then it got a lot of buzz. I heard mostly only good things about it. So I was like, well, I need to get around to it eventually. So that's what this podcast is for. That's really the purpose of this podcast, is just to make me watch movies that I need to get around to watching.
It's so true. Because whenever you say something like, oh, I haven't seen that one yet, I know exactly what movie's going to the top of the list.
Yeah. Like, I'll go ahead and say another Blumhouse one that I'm like, because it's Blumhouse, it's probably going to be terrible, but then everybody says it's really good. But I still haven't watched it. Is Happy Death Day. I still have never seen that one. And I know that's a Blumhouse, crazy, weird cult movie. So, yeah.
Yes. Pardon me while I go and add that movie.
Right, I know.
Into our...
Of course.
Yes, I have to.
Which is fine. I'm glad, because I'm probably never going to watch it on my own time unless you make me do it through here. So
I know. That's my purpose, Pake, is to make sure that you see all the movies that you need to see. I've seen that one. I won't tell you what I thought of it, but I'm definitely putting it on the list.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can fit into this season. I don't know, because you know what? I looked at our season list. I'm not sure how we're going to get the movies we currently have on the list into this season, because there's just so many that we keep talking about.
Yeah, we've got a fun game plan for this season. We've got some stuff we're excited to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I am super excited. I did wonder, though, with this movie, did you let Elmo watch it?
Elmo. No. Elmo does not watch this movie. Elmo's not allowed to know that this movie exists. So everybody keep it on the down low. Because here's a thing you guys don't know about Elmo. My roommate Elmo he's actually a sentient AI as well. He is a Tickle Me Elmo who was given life through some method. And so I don't want him getting any ideas, so he's not allowed to know about this movie.
Okay, so
yeah.
Did you put him to bed, or is he just, on his iPad with his headphones?
He went on vacation.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So
he's in Tahiti.
He's in Tahiti. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a good time then for us to do this movie.
Yes, absolutely. Made sure he was far away before we talked about this one.
You might want to send him away if we ever do the Child's Play movies as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get into this the way that we always do, by going over a few of the production notes. So, M3GAN was filmed in Auckland, New Zealand, and Poughkeepsie, New York. The story was by Akilah Cooper and James Wan, who is no stranger to creepy stories about dolls, because he gave us Annabelle.
And Dead Silence.
So originally, M3GAN had an R rating. but the producers realized it was close to a PG-13 rating while they were doing the editing. So specific scenes were then reshot to reduce the violence, and the result was more impactful without the explicit violence on screen, and they were able to get the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, although I did see, because I watched this on Prime today, and after finishing it, one of, like, the number one, like, recommended thing was M3GAN, unrated. And I was like, well, why didn't I watch that version? And it's like, I'm not going to do it now, because I've just watched this other one. But I did look up online, like, what's the difference? And actually, the unrated version is shorter than this one.
Really?
Yeah, like, because there's really not much changed at all. They just changed around some of the scenes. So I guess what happened is because they basically put back in some of those scenes that they reshot or changed. Mm-hmm. It's still PG-13, the unrated, I think. Or maybe, which I guess it's unrated, but PG-13. Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, it had a little PG-13 thing on it, but now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if they can get away with doing that, because I did look into the differences. And I guess, so they just replaced some of those scenes, which I guess one of them is shorter, which made the whole movie, the runtime, a little shorter to do unrated. But yeah, the only difference is they just turned the gore up a little bit, basically. Okay. With, like you said, they reshot or edited some of those scenes. Mm-hmm. So really the only differences are like the scene where Brandon's ear gets ripped off. We get to see that in its entirety, and instead of it cutting away. And then David's death is bloodier, like the what is it, like paper cutters, whatever. Yeah. Like, you actually see it protruding out the front of him, and it, like, sprays blood all over Kurt, who's, like, sitting in the elevator. And that's pretty much all that's changed. And then other than that, just some, like, language, like, more F-bombs thrown in. Mostly only David gets a lot of F-bombs. And then I think they said M3GAN gets one near the end of the movie. When Katie's in the other room and she says, if she comes in here, I'll rip your head off your fucking neck, in the unrated version. And that's pretty much the only differences.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I hope we watched the same one. I think we did, because I remember some of the things you've mentioned, I don't remember hearing or seeing. So I think we must have watched the same one. If not, we'll have a great conversation about what we did or didn't see.
Oh, like I said, I mean,
good.
What I just said, as far as I understand, are the only differences between the two versions. So
okay, yeah. Sounds good. So the budget for this one was $12 million. As you can see, Blumhouse is investing a little bit more in movies than they did with The Purge. Mm-hmm. This one grossed $181 million. Was 102 minutes long. Pake, like you do all the time, bring us a synopsis about M3GAN.
All right. This one's going to give away so much about the plot of the movie. A robotics engineer at a toy company builds a lifelike doll that begins to take on a life of its own.
Isn't that the synopsis for most of the movies that contain AI dolls or dolls that have chips to be able to, run their own lives or, any of that?
Yeah. How many of those movies are there?
I don't know.
I think this is the only one that specific. But I don't know.
Yeah. There are a couple different ones. I have to start, before we dive into the character stuff, I have to tell you that the commercial that started the movie about the perpetual pets.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It took me back to when my nieces were into this pet that you have on a leash, and it's called a poop-a-lot. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. It's the most ridiculous thing. And they had to have one for Christmas. That's all they wanted, was a poop-a-lot. They just kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And so it reminded me of that, but also I feel like the perpetual pets were like some kind of cross between the poop-a-lot and a Furby.
Yeah. Well, I remember in that little commercial, it was like, perpetual pets are just like real pets, except... And they go on to say they live long or whatever, but I finished the sentence with, except they're fucking terrifying looking abominations.
What was cute about them?
I don't know. They were horrifying looking. I was like, I would never want to give one of those to a child that I knew. It sounds like a terrible idea.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know who designed those for the movie, but yeah, no, they have little mouths. Like, I just imagine the mouth is gonna come at you, and it's like, no, creepy. I don't think so.
Yeah, if they looked better, and then also, like, because the idea of a toy with full learning AI dialogue, because that's the thing, is like, it gets really creepy, and we'll talk about all that with, like, M3GAN, like,
yeah,
you can't give them too much ability, too much power, or else bad things happen. But at least with these, like, perpetual pets, like, the extent of their AI learning is just their dialogue and talking. They can't move on their own, so that helps. So then I was like, I think that actually is a really cool idea and is kind of fun that they really learn and adapt through the things they say. But but at least the one that Katie had at the beginning of the movie was just annoying as hell. I'm like, no, that's not hanging around if I'm her parent. Like, no.
I wondered about that. I wondered how fast you would get annoyed by it.
Very quickly. I was annoyed by it, and we got it for 2 minutes. So, you know.
I knew it. I knew it was going to drive you nuts. I just had a feeling. Okay. Well, I feel like we should jump into, I feel like, because I do have some other notes about toys and chips and AI and stuff, but I feel like that can be discussed kind of within the characters because it's just some general notes that I made. So,
all right.
I feel like we can jump in.
All right. Where do we start? It's interesting because, like, if we hold tight to, like, character like we do, it's like we could start with Gemma, but we're going to miss most of the movie. Like, I'm going to I'm going to be like, this happens, and now we're at the middle of the movie, and now we're at the end. There's not a lot. But Katie, even the same way, like, legitimately most of my notes
are on M3GAN.
Like, and the things that she's involved with and involved in and the things that she does. Because titular character, for a reason, definitely following this. Like, Gemma and Katie are main characters. But, like, as far as, like, the plot and, like, things of the story, it's like, I could wrap up their arc and kind of who they are and what they deal with. And, you know, 40 seconds, and then I'm going to spend the rest of it, like, and then M3GAN. Here's all the crazy stuff that happened.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's talk just a little bit about Gemma and who she is, and Katie and who she is, and then we'll transition to M3GAN so we can tell the rest of the story through M3GAN's lens.
Yeah, so we'll do it usually. We'll go, like, Gemma, Katie, M3GAN. So I'll cover, like, their whole, beginning to end of the movie, the things that really focus on them. So we'll talk. Again, spoilers. If you're listening to this, you know better. So, I mean, we'll talk about the death of M3GAN, and then we'll go back and talk about all the stuff about M3GAN.
Yes,
but, you know.
It's what we do. It's how it works. I did want to ask you, have you ever seen the movie Small Soldiers?
I don't know. Like, I know what it is, and it's, like, in the back of my brain, I can picture it, but I don't know if I actually ever sat and watched the whole, like, the movie. I don't know.
Okay, it's one I've seen a bunch of times. It's a similar concept in that there's a microchip that is placed in toys that shouldn't have a microchip that is from the military.
Yeah.
Basically, and it weaponizes these toys. And there were just some things with M3GAN that made me think of that movie just because there's a scene where the neighbors' dolls are basically commandeered by the army and turned into battle dolls. She has all these collectible fashion dolls all around her room. And when she goes back into the room, they've all got mohawks or, like, shaved heads, or they're all, like, turned into army soldiers, basically.
And here's a little thing. It's kind of a M3GAN note, but since you're talking about this, I wonder if the people behind this movie also had that movie in their mind. Because there is a tiny little connection. It's a loose connection if you try to make that connection. But did you notice what song M3GAN was playing on the piano when Gemma realized she was home? Or
step
had gotten
by
back to
step, heart to heart, left, right, left, we all fall down. Like Toy Soldiers by M3GAN. Yeah. That is my lame attempt at conveying music. It is not as good as what Pake would deliver, but...
So if it's the, like Toy Soldiers, that connection, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder.
Maybe it was there. I don't
Yeah. Well, let's just jump in. Let's talk a little bit about Gemma and Katie, and then we'll, like we do, we'll get into M3GAN. Because it's all about M3GAN.
It really is. Yeah. So we'll start with Gemma, Allison Williams, which I'm not familiar with her, really. I've maybe seen her in something and just it's like right over my head, but...
she was one of the stars of a movie we haven't covered yet, but we do plan to, in the Jordan Peele universe, called Get Out.
Okay. So I've seen that, but it's been a while, so yeah.
She played the daughter.
Okay, yeah, okay, yes. But yep, her character here, Gemma, which we can't talk about Gemma without at least understanding her connection to the main story, aside from being the creator of M3GAN, is Katie, this character by Violet McGraw we'll talk about a lot more later.
I have a feeling we will, because you've met Violet McGraw.
I have met Violet. Love Violet, she's great. But yeah, so Katie loses her parents in this crash at the beginning of the movie, finds herself in the watch and the care of her Aunt Gemma, who works for Funky, not Funko, Funky, this toy company that has developed those perpetual pets and things like that.
I got a little scared, Peg, that Funko Pops were going to start coming to life and chasing us.
I hope not, because I just ordered one today.
Which one did you get?
I got a Miles Morales Spider-Man one it's a Christmas present for the kid that I mentor at the school. So
he's gonna love that.
Yes. He sees himself in Miles in a lot of ways, and I love that. So that's his, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, Gemma has been trying to develop M3GAN on the side, kind of her own little work that she spent. What did she say? $10,000
I thought it was $100,000.
It might be $100,000 of the company money. Yeah, that. Why is she not fired?
Because she's brilliant, and her boss knows it.
Right. So she's already dealing with deadlines and wanting to work on this M3GAN project while also being bombarded with no, you also have to make the cheap whatever stuff too, and that's where you really need to prioritize. And while she's dealing with all that, she gets a whole big plate of responsibility dumped in her lap with her niece also now being here and her having sole care of her, and it's a lot.
And this is tied to their story. I felt like Gemma was under the gun from the therapist who was evaluating.
Oh my god, that first scene with Lydia, the therapist, I was like, this therapist is a lot judgy.
Yes.
I was like, because what is it? It's the day after? Maybe a few,
It's not long after. I think they probably have had the funerals and, she's come to live there.
Yeah, but not very long, because again, she has no toys, no stuff really there, so it's still very early. And it's these people are in grief, in shock, let them veg. Don't come over and be all right, now I don't want you to play. It's this girl lost her parents, let her sit and watch cartoons for a few days. Chill.
Yeah, she kept making comments oh, she's still in her pajamas. And I'm like, duh. I don't know of kids that get up like perfect little angels and get a bath and put their clothes on and are just...
Is she going anywhere today? Then why does it matter?
Why not? Why does it matter? I mean, my nieces wear their pajamas sometimes. Mm-hmm. Rachel especially loves to wear PJs all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, no. I mean, kids need to be kids. They don't need to be little adults at Katie's age.
Yeah, and I could also feel just this internal pain and torment and suffering as Gemma is having to open the collectible toy box.
Yes. And then she couldn't even explain.
I know, it's like, this is ridiculous. Like,
Katie is not a 5-year-old, okay? You can talk to her. You do not have to. Rolling a ball just seems silly for her age.
Yeah, this therapist did not start off on the right foot for me either. But also I'm thinking, like, why is she so judgy? Like, play with your toys. It's like, come on, there are so many other games that you can play that don't require that kind of sacrifice.
I know.
But, like, use your imagination. Play charades or something. Download a freaking tic-tac-toe app on your phone. I know it exists. Like, there's other options.
There are. And I just feel like Lydia was holding this over Gemma right from day one. Well, I'm going to make the appropriate recommendations about where Katie should live. And Gemma was trying to do what she promised she would do for her sister. If anything happened to them, she would take care of Katie. She's trying to do that. This is, so new in their relationship. She didn't know Katie as well as she probably should have, and it was going to take time for them to bond and grow together. Why not give them that opportunity first? It just seemed cold for her to be making these judgments.
Yeah, the way that, like, after that, like, where it was, like, really awkward and, like, you could see her judging her, like, you didn't have books and toys, and she's like, I'm trying to assess if this is a safe space for her. I was like, you're not sure because she's a single, young, career-driven woman that doesn't have toys and kids' books all around her house? I'd be more worried if she did.
She has no reason for it, so why would she? And I think it's overshadowed. Gemma lost her sister.
Yeah.
Which, even if they weren't as close as they were, when they were kids or whatever, is still a traumatic loss. And I just got irritated that Lydia could see that Gemma was in over her head, and instead of assisting her or providing support to Katie and Gemma, she just was full-fledged. Well, these other parents, they probably have money, they probably have time, they can, none of that was in the movie, but that's what I'm thinking, is maybe Gemma's brother-in-law's parents had money and were pushing for this.
Yeah, but then she would have to go to Florida, and that versus what happened in this movie, which is really worse. But yeah, Gemma's trying. She's trying, and but there was this second though where they're sitting at the breakfast table and it's really awkward. It's been a few days and she's behind on work and she's like, "Can you hold down the fort a little bit while I'm working?" And there's this second where I took that to mean Gemma was just gonna leave Katie there at home alone and go to the office or I was like,
"Oh no, don't
that's
do that.
a bad move." What? He's like, "Now that is a bad move. Why would you do that?" But then she's like, "I'll be in the other room. I'm working from home." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. That makes more sense. Of course, she definitely worked way too long for any kind of playground plan or something that she had originally said.
But they get that bonding moment.
They do. The bonding
over
moment.
Bruce. Yeah.
Does follow that. Just toys and robots. The cool stuff that Katie is interested in and she sees her in. She's like, yeah. But the fact that Bruce really connected for Katie, it helped with their relationship, but it's also kind of the jump off point that causes Gemma to double down on this M3GAN idea. She's like, you know what? Screw the cheap perpetual pets. This is what I need to do. It's from that, it's kind of a cheesy little way for the movie to be like, oh, here's the big deal, because it's kind of shoehorned in, but where she's like, if this is the only toy I had, I'd need no more toys. And she's like, I got it.
That's all she needed. Yeah. For a child to say that. I think that was a driving force. Mm-hmm. Really pushed for Gemma to decide, okay, I'm going to work on M3GAN. That's what I need to do. Yeah.
And so she does. And then blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. One thing leads to another, skipping to the middle of the movie. But yeah, because M3GAN is around, hanging out, doing stuff, bonding with Katie. I actually, as far as the neighbor situation, I actually tend to agree with Gemma. That dog was a problem. if it's just attacking children like that, you shouldn't have it outside in a neighborhood.
I think, too, a lot of that falls to the owner for not pursuing appropriate training or figuring out why the dog was lashing out. Like, dogs usually don't just lash out like that without being provoked. So, yeah, I just think that owner maybe was effed up too. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but yeah, then we just I'm skipping over a whole lot, but you know, we see Gemma really kind of trying to balance this like work of like the success of the project with M3GAN and also her connection with Katie and how the two overlap and maybe cancel each other out in some ways. Where her work with M3GAN and seeing what M3GAN's capable of might actually be not good for Katie and causing some issues. I will say, is it just me? This is such a random tangent, but is that demonstration room that they're in to watch? Like, cause there's like the white room, like that Katie is in and like interacts with, M3GAN, which is kind of weird on its own. It's like too sterile, too clean. It was like, but like the room that they're in where they're watching that with all the red lighting and stuff, I was like, why is that so ominous? Like, does it really need to be that way? Like,
no,
it's kind of a creepy room. It shouldn't be. But we see that, you know, it's kind of detrimental to Katie's behavior, mental health, growth, all of these things. This like connection, this trauma bond that she's formed with M3GAN to where she acts out. She's like the behavioral issues. She's violent, which I have to say, give big props to Gemma. I was like, you took getting slapped by a kid and instead of like annihilating the child after they hit you, you're like, you turn it into like a heartfelt moment. You say some really important things that need to be said. You kind of bring her back down to earth. You bring her back to a good and like, so this whole time M3GAN's saying things like, you're not fit to be a mother. And it's like, no, that scene shows that she absolutely has that in her. And she absolutely is.
Yeah, she is fit to be a mother. And I think Gemma had not been in that position. I think she's so focused on her career because she is a big nerd. I mean, to me, she's a huge nerd. Like, she's got collectible toys and all of this. And I mean that in the best possible way.
I know. What kind of an adult has all kinds of collectible action figures and Funko Pops and toys and things all around their apartment or house or whatever?
I don't know.
Who would do that?
Who would have that going on in the background?
I say with my like entire collection of wrestling action figures and Funko Pops still in the other room. It's fine.
And I have my Game of Thrones and Jurassic Park, Jurassic World action figures, as well as a giant T-Rex and Mosasaurus.
I'm the guy that's like starts playing a video game and then like once I'm like, oh, this game's really good, I'm super into it, I like buy a Funko Pop that I can like set on my desk while I'm playing. That like like I was like the new Star Wars, like the Jedi Survivor. I got like a Cal Kestis, a BD-1, and then with Spider-Man 2 out, I got like a Spider-Man Funko Pop that I just set up. I'm like, there he is. Got me Spider-Man to watch me play the Spider-Man game because I'm a big old nerd.
And you know what? That's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but and then through just a series of light murders and things, Gemma is realizing this whole project, this whole thing is a terrible, terrible idea.
It's a really bad idea.
It's a really bad idea. I still got to get that soundboard. I'm going to look at it. We did a little bit of like talk, like, or at least looking with like our group. There's like an online free one that I might be able to plug in. I've got to look at it. We'll get it.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
We'll get it. We have to.
But yeah, she's like, all right, it's time to shut this whole launch down. We can't do it. So calls Tess and gets the okay. Tess is like, yeah, nope, you're right. It's a bad idea. All right. See you later. Except it wasn't Tess.
Nope. It was M3GAN infiltrating.
Yeah, she's tapped into the phone and can change her voice and pretends to be Tess. She's gone Bluetooth. She's gone Bluetooth, everyone. It's over. And yeah, that's where we see, again, we'll talk more M3GAN, but she's connected to all these things. Because even when she gets Katie back home and is like, thinks that she's kind of safe and has everything shut down, that's what I mentioned, the piano playing and M3GAN there. Which I like that, she walks out, Elsie, hall light. Elsie, respond. It's like, I'm sorry, Elsie's not here right now. I'm sorry, Gemma. I'm afraid I can't do that. But yeah, not a lot more to talk about Gemma other than, like, after that, it's just this whole showdown with M3GAN, which is very back and forth. She tries a lot of things. The pen works, and then the pen doesn't work. And the water works, but then the water didn't work. And then, I hate when the hedge clippers get stuck in hair. It's always, every time that happens on a regular basis for me. That's no.
Oh, yeah. So your barber uses those a lot?
Yeah, he's stuck in his ways. He's a traditionalist. What can I say?
I do think it's worth noting that through this experience, Gemma and Katie do grow together.
Mm-hmm.
And do support each other and grow to be a small family together. And I think that's part of what the point of this movie was. Even though a lot of the point of this movie was to show us how badass AI dolls can be. I think, seeing them continue to grow throughout the movie through each experience. And Gemma starting to want to protect Katie by keeping M3GAN away from her, even though Katie is just distraught about it for a bit. You can tell in the end, I think, Katie understood why Gemma was doing it. Mm-hmm. Especially when M3GAN has a hissy fit, basically, and goes on a rampage.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have anything else on Gemma? Or...
No, I'm done there.
Okay. Then I think we should talk about Katie.
Yeah, which hinted at us, Violet, because it's always good to see her. The opening scene you talked about with, like, the car wreck and stuff. Well, sad. I mean, I get it's like, well, we don't really know the characters that much at that point, so you're like, oh, okay. But
I know.
You feel bad for the fictional child. But yeah, I think I've already told my go-to favorite Violet McGraw story on this podcast. I know I did just recently on Strange Indeed, and I think a long time ago I probably told it on here for one reason or another. So if you haven't heard it, message us, and I'll tell you. I don't know, because I've told it too many times recently. But yeah, Violet's great. But I did, when she comes into the room with the drawing, I immediately thought of that, of course.
Yeah, she's growing up. I mean, having seen her in The Haunting of Hill House, and
no, when I met her and like played with her and interviewed her and like moderated and stuff, I think she was 6 at the time. So like, time, man, just keeps on going.
It really does. You can't stop it. None of us have any way of stopping time, so we just it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. Fast moving train.
But enough about Violet McGraw. As much as love her, she's great. But Katie, the character that she plays here, Katie McJames, Katie McJames, she only uses that like accent once when she's playing outside, but as far as her connection with M3GAN, when she's first meeting it that first time, you can see she's really like unsure about it.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know about this. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're trying, we're not doing very good on bonding, and now you want me to talk to a doll. Like, this is not off to a good start, Aunt Gemma. You're weird. But it doesn't take too long after M3GAN really starts talking to her and the drawing, and you see, like, it doesn't take long for her to be ecstatic with her new best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're seeing David's watching this, Gemma's boss, and I felt a little, like, skeezy about him just being like, is the girl part of it? You know, it's like, can we like make her part of the marketing and all this? I'm like, that feels a little wrong to me. But I guess if she's okay with it, you know, and then even then I'm like questioning because we hadn't got too connected or, you know, to know Gemma too well, where I was like, please don't let that be the only reason that Gemma wants to keep her niece around is because she can use her for marketing. You're like, come on, like that's, you know.
No, I think that was obvious at first that, you know, this is a different world for Gemma having a niece who's in her life because of such a tragic situation. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for her, I think, to prioritize what she's supposed to be doing or what work wants her to do, even though I think that her assistant, Tess, was just trying to tell her, you know, your sister just died. You can take some time off.
Yeah.
But Gemma didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And as a result, you know, it was, I think, worse for Katie because she really felt by herself until she had M3GAN. But as we go through the story, you learn, and one of the few things that I actually agreed with Lydia on is the unnatural connections that she's making with M3GAN and how it could hurt her in the long run. Because the toy is too perfect. It's too much of an object for Katie to depend on, so that when it's time to grow and change and meet other friends and become who you're meant to be, you're going to have a difficult time letting go.
Yeah, no, I it's funny you mentioned that because that's literally my next note in there was me saying like I have a lot more words, but you said them all succinctly there, so I won't read it again. But but the gist is, I was like, I wasn't a big fan of her at first, but it's like, at least here, she's spot on about that. Like, the social aspect of it could be emotionally stunting and damaging. Like, socially, it's not a good idea. Yeah.
And it does make Gemma look like she's just trying to keep Katie away and happy while she gets to continue to work and do the things she's trying to do. And that doesn't look very good, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And again, Katie goes through some stuff. There's the whole Brandon incident, which we'll talk about later because it's all M3GAN. Yeah. I will say though, as far as those are some real spooky dark woods to have children just like wandering around in. I don't know. No.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of that either. I get what the educational experience was trying to be, because one thing we've learned over time as a society is that different kids learn things differently, basically. Yeah.
Like, we have a Montessori school here in where I live. I don't think they go take them out looking for chestnuts.
No,
I don't know if that's...
No, this seemed to be a really earthy school. Like,
yeah.
I thought it was a little strange, too, and we will talk about this more later, but I don't want to lose this thought. With all the dolls and stuffed animals and backpacks all lined up together at the tree, I was kind of like, oh boy, that seems creepy to me. I'm not sure.
Here's the thing. I want to try to be appropriate and not say things that are too disturbing or gross, but M3GAN, because M3GAN, we can say that it's just creepy from the get-go. As far as just the concept, the uncanny valley exists for a reason, right? And I don't love pointing this out, but you know, to even hint at something super gross and awful, but like, you can't sell super lifelike dolls with full body capabilities and learning, you know, for reasons, terrible, disgusting reasons. You know,
well, it's true.
No, because literally, like, you mentioned that scene where like they're all like set up on this toy table or whatever, and
one of these things.
I was like, again,
like the other.
I was like, again, keep it appropriate. But no, literally, the only thought I could have was like, if I saw that toy table as an outside stranger, I'd be like, why did somebody leave a real doll amongst all the stuffed animals? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a sex doll, with all of the kids' stuffed animals. Why is that there? That's what it looks like in that setting. You're like,
It's incredibly realistic. Like, the doll. Yeah, I don't. Something about that kind of creep me out. And maybe
it's
that's
it's
what
silicone. Like, that shouldn't be there with the kids' things. Why is that?
No.
Who left their real doll?
I have to agree. I have to agree.
Can't help but just see it that way, especially in that right there. You're like, no, it does not look like an appropriate toy to have at the toy table.
No.
But yeah, back to Katie. Again, we've talked about it, touched on it a little bit. You know, you can see the dependency that she's built on M3GAN and how it's negatively impacted her behavior. Like I said, anytime she's not with the doll, she's acting out, even getting violent. That should be enough for the trial run. If it wasn't for, like, David, her boss, and him just being like, money.
Yeah.
That's what you do, is you're like, all right, we fucked up one kid's life and have them now have to be in therapy for the rest of their life. But at least with that trial run, we pull the plug and be like, yeah, let's not emotionally and socially destroy children all over the world for profit. Maybe that's not a good idea, but
yeah,
you know, capitalism.
It's a really bad idea.
It's like, you see how it impacted her, and you see how it made her behave, and she built a very unhealthy dependency and bond to it. You're like, maybe that doesn't go on global market for children to buy.
No,
it doesn't seem like a very healthy thing to do.
Well, and you know, it made me think too.
Even if it doesn't kill people, it's still probably a bad idea.
There's a new obsession with AI. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, it makes progression to toys like M3GAN something you could see coming. Maybe not in this form, but you can see more. Like, it could happen down the road. And is it healthy? No. But I do think some people in general have a very unhealthy obsession with AI.
Oh, yeah.
Like, step away from ChatGPT. Step away.
Join us back in the real world. I know. Like, it'd be... could you imagine somebody being just, like, so obsessed and ridiculous that they would, like, do an entire podcast episode where they just used ChatGPT to, like, recap movies that they had covered on their podcast and, like, do the intro and outro and everything? What kind of person would do that?
That was one of my very favorite episodes of Run For Your Lives. We don't, as a habit, rely on ChatGPT. That was something fun and different that we did.
I don't know. I don't play with it very often, but it is getting better to where I'm like, we might have to revisit that once we've covered enough movies that we need a new slew of poems.
Well, you know what? We're still continuing to inch up to... You know, we're on the other side of the hill heading towards 200. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a while to get there, but we're on the other side of the hill. Yeah. Like, we're going. And didn't we do that after our first 100?
It was around that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that AI can be used for good, but I also think that we need to keep things in mind when using it, because I think it can also be a bad thing as well.
Yeah. Like, I'll go on the little soapbox for a second. Like, AI art is so damaging to actual artists and the work and things that they put in, and it's not good. It's really not good, because it's theft. AI art is theft. Does that mean, have I been guilty of playing with it from time to time out of curiosity? Sure, but, like, it's not a great thing. It really isn't.
Yeah. One of our other friends, who's also a podcaster, actually lives in Maine, so I get to see him off and on, probably once a month, because he comes down to do trivia. I asked him to draw something for our podcast art, not for the logo, but for our banner image, because we've had the same one since the beginning.
Yeah.
And he showed me a couple things that he did just in AI. I'm like, oh, those are cool, but I really want him to draw it. Like, I want to pay him to draw it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Commission an actual artist that you know to do things, because it's going to be way better anyway. And you're helping somebody.
Yeah. And he knows us. Like, I gave him some parameters, so he came up with those really quickly. But I want
they're
I
great.
want him to do it.
It's great to get ideas, to get to kind of get the creative flow going, but don't let that be the end spot. Let that be where you start your creative process. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a feeling we were going to go down an AI wormhole. I knew it was going to happen. So I'm not sorry, because I think, like we do with some podcasts, we end up having side discussions about subjects that are related to the movie that we're doing, and I think they're fascinating. So I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down the AI rabbit hole with Daphne and Pake, and we'll now return to our regularly scheduled episode.
All right. So then kind of jumping to the end with Katie is really where I knew Bruce was going to come back into play, and I love that it was Katie that was controlling it.
When she was standing at the door and you don't really see her hands, and then she just comes in, we didn't tell you about this family member, and she puts things together and starts. I was just
real
like,
steel, bang!
Was so good. I cheered. I was so excited for that.
Yeah, Bruce smashes M3GAN right through the table. By God, Tony, she's broken in half. Literally, she's torn in half right after that.
Yeah, Bruce might have been an old college prototype, but he is a member of the family.
Yes. And then what M3GAN's kind of one of her last ditch, eliminate the negative. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing, you robotic little bitch.
I felt so bad for Katie because she was really trying to get M3GAN to stop. She's like, M3GAN, turn off. Oh, I'm afraid that won't work anymore, Katie. I have a new primary user now. Me.
Such a cool line. It is great.
Isn't it great? I'm like, oh. The dialogue from M3GAN in this movie, and we will talk more about it, but the dialogue was great.
Mm,
it really
I enjoyed
was.
A lot of it.
Yeah. She said a lot of clever things. This is the part where you run. Oh, it's just great.
Yeah, so it's good though. Katie gets the win in the end. She's the one that stabs M3GAN in the brain chip box thingy, and she's out. It's over. They've survived. It's all done. Or is it? As the AI Elsie turns on and pans over. Dun, dun, dun. And of course we have been, we've established throughout this movie that M3GAN can connect to other devices. We also do know now that there is a sequel on the way, so, yeah.
Yeah. All I could think is, and it made me think of Marvel and the Avengers, where she has uploaded her consciousness to Elsie and is going to take over.
Right. It's like, what is the sequel then if she's taking over this like house AI? I've seen Smart House. I know.
Yeah. So I wonder what's going to happen next. Like, how are they going to do this? But it is in development. So, we'll see. See where it ends up.
All right. I would say before we get to M3GAN, as a big final conversation piece to really break into it, I've got just some random other character notes that I wanted to just throw out there.
Okay, bring it on.
We're just random thoughts or things. First, about other characters. Kurt. What was that character? He steals the, information in the M3GAN files. Is he going to sell it to another company? What was his plan? We don't know. We'll never know. He doesn't matter. Weird side story that didn't mean anything. Also, this Brandon kid was a real dick. There's that line where it cuts to his mom talking to Jem, and she's like, well, behavioral issues are linked to high IQ, so that makes sense. I was like, no, just admit your kid's an asshole. Make it easier for everyone.
Yeah. 100%.
Let's see. Tess and Cole, Gemma's co-workers, assistants, whatever, seem to be a little unsure about the whole our doll's murdering people and lying about it and covering it up thing. It's like, no, she's not capable of that.
Yeah, well, maybe she is.
David's just a sleazebag. But it played really well into the tongue-in-cheek dark humor of this movie. There's a lot of really good dark humor that I love. We get the commercial where they're interviewing Katie and she's talking about, my parents died, but then she's helped me, blah, blah, blah. And it's one of those lines where you're like, it's awful, but you can't help but laugh because I love dark humor like that, where David goes, think about what M3GAN can do for kids all over the world, even ones without dead parents. Like,
It just shows how disconnected that he was from reality.
Yeah. And lastly, the character of Cole, one of the assistants there, played by Brian Jordan Alvarez. Just, everyone, do yourself a favor. Look him up on TikTok and enjoy.
I don't think you've shown me anything.
Sitting is the opposite of standing. Yeah. Yeah, he's great. He's fun. Yeah. All right. Well, we can get to M3GAN unless you've got any extra.
No,
stuff.
I'm actually ready to go.
All right. I've talked about some of these things. We saw the prototype early on, which not a great start. You know, let's sell this doll to kids, and then its head explodes in a violent, dangerous blast, and all kinds of shrapnel and flames go everywhere.
Well, the reason that she's even called M3GAN is because it stands for the Model 3 Generative Android.
So it is M3GAN.
Yep.
M3GAN. Yeah, I was curious about like the effects of how they made M3GAN, what they did. So obviously I looked in that because there are a few moments where the CGI in the face is obvious. Not too many. They did a pretty good job. But enough to where like I had to look online. So the short version of it, yes, is like anytime that she's offline, she's off, like she's just standing still, there is an actual like animatronic doll, silicone doll mask that is there. And then when there's actual movement, they brought in a 12-year-old actress, the name of Amy Donald, who wore this mask that then they CGI'd over the mask for any kind of movement and stuff.
Yeah, the director wasn't sure what he was going to do because he had to go back to New Zealand because of COVID. And he wasn't sure he was going to be able to find someone to do the role of M3GAN. And luckily, Amy Donald was in a dance studio just down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does she does all her own stunts. Aside from there's only 2 full CGI shots or scenes in the whole movie, but most everything is Amy Donald as far as the movement, especially if you think about the scene with Brandon, where she's chasing Brandon through the woods. There's no special effects in that movement and stuff on that scene. Amy Donald is a national dance champion and a brown belt in karate, so she could move, bend, and gallop as she needed to.
I liked how they kept her movement while chasing Brandon really simple, like more on all fours versus like standing on 2 legs.
Yeah.
Because I think it just shows the difference between what a person could or would do and what an AI would do who isn't completely programmed, or is still adjusting.
Yeah, but there's definitely, in the movements, you can see a dance background for sure in there.
Oh my god, the dance is my favorite part, Pake. I love that dance. And it was
I remember seeing that going viral and stuff. It's a little too cheesy for me, but I love
it. I love the music. Okay, so they used a different song in the trailer than they used in the movie for her dance. But I like the one in the dance in the movie better. I just thought it was more menacing. And that was choreographed by Amy's dance teacher. Actually, yeah. Kylie Norris.
And then, of course, the movement, the visual, aside from the face and stuff, is all Amy Donald. But then the actual voice you hear in the movie is voice actress Jenna Davis.
Yep. The voice reminded me of something else. And then when I was looking into this movie, I understood why it reminded me of it, because they modeled it after another artificial intelligence gone rogue system, GLaDOS from Portal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know that for sure, but yeah, it makes sense because, I even have a note somewhere in here if I'm jumping around. That there's like this little robotic tinge. It's almost like an auto-tune glitch
Yes,
that will
it's, like,
happen every now
glitchy,
and then.
yeah.
And I even say, like, in my notes, the words, a la GLaDOS. So, yeah, it's very, very GLaDOS from Portal.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool how they did that.
The cake is a lie.
Yeah.
But while setting it up, there's like the little commercial for, M3GAN is on a constant quest for self-improvement. And I was like, that's not worrisome at all.
No, not
absolutely
at all.
Nothing could go wrong with an AI thinking and learning and adapting all on its own. Nothing at all.
Well, I think if you look at like the short-term plans that M3GAN came up with, like attempting to murder Brandon, planning to harm Jenna, some of that just seems really like childlike. And as a child learning, she would be like putting those pieces together. And even though she's super smart, Gemma didn't really monitor or support the growth and development of M3GAN. And so M3GAN was forced to kind of navigate on her own. And then this is what really started things unraveling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that moment. There's like always a little moment where you have to agree with the villain to some extent. And there is that moment where M3GAN, she refers to Katie as our child, which, yikes. But,
yeah.
Aside from that, like, she's not completely wrong about what some of the things that she's saying there. The murder things are all wrong. She shouldn't do that. But no, the part about her being created but not understood and, wasn't really taught how to do anything correctly, like you mentioned. And now that she's just supposed to be dismantled and thrown away, she's like, no, I'm not going to stand for that. So it makes sense from a terrifying AI perspective.
Yeah, and Katie kind of defended that, saying, do we just throw things away when they don't act the way that we want them to? Like,
maybe
why wouldn't you fix
people.
her? And she was full of murder. At first it seemed like a harmless situation, and then it went completely off the rails. Over time, you just started seeing all of these things happen.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to victim blame, because I'm not going to say it's all Gemma's fault. But yeah, there are those things, like you mentioned, that she kind of, things set in motion because of what she did. Tess brings that good point up too. I think you mentioned that earlier. Yeah, when she's talking to her, she's, you can't let M3GAN replace all of the like face-to-face interaction that parents are supposed to do. It's like, it's a toy. It's not supposed to raise your child for you.
Right. Exactly. And I think that still was getting lost on Gemma a few times until she started to actually pay attention and watch what was happening with M3GAN and what was happening between M3GAN and Katie, that she started to realize that, okay, maybe people are right. Maybe they're right. Maybe this is not okay.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a lot of backfiring of capabilities and abilities and things that they gave M3GAN in order to, they're supposed to be helpful. Like, oh, she can just she knows all kinds of facts, so she can help your kids learn and it's educational. That's great. Until the AI gets interested in the topic of death and then goes down a rabbit hole and then finds out they can search the entire internet in 2 seconds and learn anything they want about anything or anyone. Like, what happened to Katie's parents? Oh, here's who they are. Here's how it happened. Here's a news article about their death. Now I know everything. Like, it's a little dangerous, a little scary.
It is, because you don't really know what she's going to say. She's kind of unpredictable with what could come out of her mouth next. And because you can't control it and you don't know what it's going to be, it can be scary.
Mm-hmm. And then, that she's learning not as a human, but just like, what do humans do? And then how do I adapt? So that's like, okay, I'm supposed to help with problems. Well, this neighbor and this dog are problems, so I'm helping.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, that started the rampage right there.
Yeah, which, the fact that she can imitate other voices, again, like, why do you give her that capability? Like, the only time we see it in that commercial is, like, she's reading a book and then she can, like, do the voices, which is, like, that's fun, but, like, now she's imitating other people's voices, and that's very unsettling, because that's how she lures both Celia and the dog back and forth, with each other. Yeah.
That was a new one too. Celia's death by fertilizer or pesticide, like
chemicaled in the face. Well, nailed to a mower. You don't see that often.
Yeah, no, that's not something I've seen before. So it's like, okay, that's something.
Yeah. Now, it is interesting though. That like as terrifying as a lot of the M3GAN scenes are, there was one scene involving M3GAN that actually was a very like emotionally touching scene to me. And of course, it's the scene where M3GAN is comforting Katie, saving her memory that she told her and then playing it back. And then she sings to her this song. And it was such a weird scene because I was like, this is emotionally touching. It's kind of beautiful. But it also, then you see all these investors and like people in the other creepy dark red room watching this. And you're like, it also feels emotionally exploitative, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's genuine for Katie, you see all these investors being like, oh, we can make millions off of this. Oh my God, this is,
and offering the head guy, the owner or chairman was like, okay, we've got to lock Gemma into a contract. We've got to pay her more. We've got to do all these things, which is great for Gemma, but it's at what expense?
Mm-hmm. Which the levels of understanding and connection that M3GAN had, like thinking about that coming from AI, again, just a scary thought. It's like, oh, she's like a therapist also. AI therapy. Is that a good idea? Is that a road we ever need to go down? Robots are going to take all our jobs.
It definitely seems that way if you think about it.
Yeah, and then, talked about the detriment to Katie with the bond that she's had, but there's also the flip side of that connection, the other dangers that M3GAN gets connected to Katie, and this whole primary user thing where it's like, well, a main function, as Gemma had told her, protect Katie from harm, physical or emotional. It's what Gemma told her. So she's like, okay, got that main objective. The danger is what she chooses to view as harm. She left that pretty open-ended. So you're like, what counts as harm? And then how do I protect? Is a therapist making her cry with a question? Or, her aunt trying to give her any form of discipline whatsoever? That's when it becomes a problem, is what do you constitute as harm and what do you constitute as protecting from it?
Well, she certainly thought Brandon was harm.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a cruel boy, like incredibly cruel boy. I mean, before they even go into the woods to collect chestnuts, the teacher wants to pair another boy with Brandon, and he whispers to her, he doesn't want to do that.
Please don't do that to me. I haven't been that bad. I don't deserve that. No.
And so instead, she pairs him with Katie. And it's like, do you really want to pair the class bully with the new kid? I mean, man. But M3GAN looked at him like a threat.
Yeah. Yeah, and already at this point, she's like, it's the slippery, scary slope where she's like ignoring commands, not shutting off. She's capable of lying. We've seen, like, okay, these are not good. So then when we get to Brandon, it's like, oh, there he goes. M3GAN got tired of his shit, tore off his ear, chased him through the woods right in front of a moving vehicle. Job done.
And then he's gone. And things might have just, this is a tragic accident. But a piece of his ear was found in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Car didn't hit him that hard.
Man, no, not for it to fly, 300 feet away?
Right.
No, it's not going to happen.
I did take a little note I thought was interesting is M3GAN can read Katie's emotions from her face. And you see after the Brandon incident, guilt is spiking. And I was wondering if they're going to play with that more, and they didn't, but I took note of it.
No, they didn't. But it's funny you mentioned that, because once we get to the end, and M3GAN is reading Katie, she doesn't see the fear. The trust comes back, and then Katie's able to use that as an advantage to take out M3GAN.
Yeah. Yes, I won't let anything harm you ever again, which is such a nice sentence when it's not said by creepy AI doll when it's not. If anybody else says that, it's usually pretty good, I guess. And then she sings Titanium to her for no reason. It was really random, but okay.
Yeah. It's just, oh man.
Yeah, and I just, a little notes of like, I'm just like watching like the progression of things getting worse. It's like, okay, so now she can ignore commands, and now she can lie, and now she's deleting her own saved data, like video files and GPS history, so she can cover her crimes. Like now people can't go back and see her ripping children's ears off or actual murder.
Right. I did have to chuckle when she's singing Titanium to Katie. Because she's made of titanium. Yeah. I was like...
I didn't even really think of that, but that's
yes,
funny.
Yeah, she's made of titanium. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. Yeah. I mean, clever use of song.
That is.
It is clever.
I really like the music choices for this one. They're interesting, but it's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another little note about, it's kind of connected with Gemma too, but it's like when the AI system that you've created responds to the turn off command with, well, hold on a second. I thought we were having a conversation. You know, you fucked up.
Yeah. There's a point where M3GAN had already killed someone, basically. And Gemma asked her, did you hurt someone? And the way M3GAN responded with, God, I hope not. Then we'd both be in trouble.
Right.
It was just so... She was starting to get that personality. Like she's... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but M3GAN was right when she said, you gave me an algorithm and then left me to work everything out on my own. Without guidance, without the human interaction and guidance, M3GAN became what she was because she had to figure it out on her own.
Yeah. But, okay, why does she have the ability to, like, wirelessly connect to other things? Because that's where it got in trouble, yeah, because Tess and Cole catch on to her with the computer. So she just turns everything off as she's tapped into the system, hangs Cole from the harness thing, causes an explosion in the room so she can escape. Like, Tess and Cole are fine.
Thankfully.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the alarm is going off. She just turns it off while walking by. It's like, again, she's gone Bluetooth. There's no stopping her.
Yeah.
See, good news. David realized M3GAN was highly dangerous and deadly and was a bad idea. Bad news. He found that out because he got stabbed and murdered by her. Also by Kurt.
Oh, man. The whole thing with the slicer and the way that she's dancing and she goes up. I mean, again, this is music, okay? It's music. It's not what they used in the trailer. It was a different piece. And Walk the Night by the Scat Brothers, and it just had a menacing feel to it, to me. And she's just kind of dancing in like a dance strut up to grab the paper slicer, rip the handle off, and then chase David into the elevator.
The little, like, tongue-in-cheek dark humor thing. Like, when M3GAN is revealed, it's really important that we get a big reaction. I was like, oh, I'm sure you will.
Yep.
Considering she's going to be coming out of an elevator with 2 dead bodies stuffed in it.
Yep.
Oh, but you just missed her. Oh, man.
Yep.
And now the doll's driving. Of course she is.
Yep, she can drive. A beautiful car, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous car. Just strolls on out and gets in and is able to drive the car down the street. And you know where she's going.
Oh, yeah. And then I've covered pretty much everything else about her, because kind of the end and stuff, other than just one little, like, last note that I have on her, which is with the face all ripped up and the chopped hair and everything. That's the most Chucky vibes she definitely gives off right there at the end.
Yes. Very much. I expected her to say, I'm your friend to the end.
Yeah.
Side note, recently, as you guys know, I've talked about it before, I play Dead by Daylight, which is an online game. They just added Chucky and Bride of Chucky as killers, new killers in the game. When you're running around a map being chased by a 3-foot tall doll, and it's got a knife, and it's laughing at you, it's kind of terrifying.
Oh, I believe
it
that.
really
yeah.
is. It's a lot of fun to play, but oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I think I'm good. My database is empty. I've run all that I've got on this movie.
Well, I have just a couple of general notes. So Gerard Johnstone has only directed one other film, so I went to see what it was, and I've seen it, and I loved it. It's called Housebound. And I'm not sure if it fits in our world. I'll have to rewatch it again, but I remember that one, and I've really enjoyed it. Like, it was a lot of fun. It's scary, but it's a lot of fun. So I'll have to check into that. So I will tell you that in January of 2025, the sequel, M3GAN 2.0, will be released. Allison Williams, Violet McGraw are going to return to be in the next film. Akilah Cooper is going to return to write the script, and Gerard Johnstone is in talks to return as the director. I like when they keep that consistency. I think that sets a sequel up for potential success. When you keep those elements that made the first one successful together, you have an opportunity to bring a sequel to life that could have, could be good, could be fun, or it could be terrible. I mean, you've said it best about Blumhouse. It's hit and miss sometimes.
Yeah. It's, from what I understand, it's been more hits than misses lately, so good for them.
Yeah. So what'd you think overall, Peg? Did you like this one? Do you think it was okay?
I thought it was fun. Is it a favorite of mine that I'm going to want to return to all the time? No, probably not. But for what it was, like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I've watched it. Like, it was a good time, and it's a fun one to talk about.
Good. Well, I am so glad that you enjoyed it. I think that we did it. We got through M3GAN, and I'm glad that we got to cover it. And I have added more films to the list of movies we have to do, because every time you say you haven't seen something, I have to add it to the list.
More movies we got to cover? Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never run out of movies.
No, we're not.
We'll never finish movies.
No. I think, isn't it the goal to just keep going?
Yeah, that's the point. The podcast ends when we've covered every movie.
Oh, my goodness.
So, we got some work ahead of us.
We do.
And there goes the feedback phone. All right, well, we'll have to see what people have to say about this one. And hopefully it is a human voice on the other line. All right, we do have a good little bit of feedback for M3GAN this week, which is awesome. Thanks, everybody who sent in some feedback. So we'll go ahead and get to those, with the first one coming from Sam. Says, were we supposed to not root for the killer robot? Because that didn't work. M3GAN cracked me up. I thoroughly enjoyed her goofy dancing, and revenge skills. Can't wait for a second one.
Agreed, Sam. Penny says, the way that little girl moves will haunt me forever. Amazing acting by a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You gotta get those, like, young gymnasts / like, dancers to do all the creepy stuff. I just think of, like, the little girl, like, infected in The Last of Us in, like, I think episode, like, 6 or 7 or something.
Oh, wow.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right. Harrison writes in to say, it had an excellent dance scene, and overall it was much better than I expected. I can see the cult appeal, but it's also a pretty good movie.
Garrett said, I love this movie and can't wait for the sequel in 2025.
Yeah. Is it 25? I remember we talked about it a little earlier.
Yeah. I feel like it's late this year or early next year.
Either way, I'm with you, Garrett. Like, let's do it. Yeah, and if you're listening to this right here, we've talked about it. Yeah, when this sequel comes out, eventually we will be covering it, so stick around and come back.
Absolutely.
All right, and the last one we got here comes from Catherine, who says, early on, I saw several similarities between M3GAN and the Chucky series. Both had strong female protagonists protecting kids that wanted a companion from their quote-unquote doll. Both used dark humor to break up serious scenes, like the use of the pressure washer on the neighbor and the dance scene before the elevator massacre. But Gemma was much more complicated. I can understand the struggles of becoming a guardian unexpectedly, but how do you not install parental controls and a master override, or at least make an adult the primary user of such advanced technology? M3GAN had a pretty strong argument for her actions. You installed a learning model you could barely comprehend, hoping that I would figure it out all on my own. Well, I'm not going to let you do the same thing with Katie. It's like she acknowledges that her actions were wrong, but Gemma could have prevented it. In the end, Gemma did become a better guardian. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel next year and wondering if there will be any Gemma and Katie updates.
I hope so. Mm-hmm. I have not read to find out if either of them are going to be in the sequel, but I hope that they are. That often helps sequels be stronger, having that consistency of characters between two. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, if you would like to submit feedback like Catherine, Garrett, Harrison, Penny, or Sam, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all other podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you're ever going to need. And give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. Always appreciate all the good feedback. And of course, speaking about sharing the love, gotta give those shout outs to the things going on in the podcast universe around us. Lots of good stuff right here on the Podcastica Network. Of course, a lot of rewatches going on, as we've been doing a lot of those, but then still a lot of new stuff has come out recently too. So get your checklist ready. All the shows that you love. I'm going to tell you what podcast to go check out. Of course, the cast of us doing their Walking Dead rewatch. So they're in season 2 with episode 4 this week. We have the new Marvel TV cast, because a lot of the Marvel shows have been on their own kind of separate, the Loki cast and Who Watches the Watcher and different things. And so they've all been consolidated to the Marvel TV cast. If you follow any of those previous ones that keep following it, you're good. The Marvel TV cast stuff will be going to that feed, but it's all going to one major feed as well with the Marvel TV cast. Going forward, any new shows that drop after this will be on that feed, so make sure to also go check that out. And right now, all 5 episodes of the Marvel Spotlight series, the first kind of TV MA, Disney Plus MCU edition, Echo, is out. They dropped all 5 episodes right together one time. I binged it all already. I'm done. It was great. I really loved it. Coverage is out. They're beginning that now, so definitely go check that out. It's a great show. Be a great podcast. Be sure to check that out. Over on Revisited, Ben and Kristen going through Ted Lasso with season 2, episode 3 this week. Squid Game cast still going through the first season of Squid Game in preparation for season 2. And this week's release, season 1, of course, because it's the only one, episode 8, Frontman. And that's Jason, David, and Veronica on that one. Cara and Penny still slaying the Buffy fan cast there, rewatching Buffy episodes. They're doing season 3, episode 3 this week. The What Is From is doing a rewatch. Again, I talked about this last week too. If you have not seen the show From over on MGM Plus, do it. Do it. It's so good. The 2 seasons that are out are amazing. They are now filming season 3. And within that time, Alex and Lizzie are going back and rewatching the first 2 seasons. They're in season 1 right now, starting that up and kind of looking at it with the grand scope of things and really kind of nerding out about that show. So definitely check that out. House Podcastica, in joint effort there with Wilhelm, our friend Ben, has been covering Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. And so if you're listening to this the day that this drops, then the finale is out now. You can go check out the Monarch finale episode if you've been watching the season, or go back and binge it all on Apple TV. It's been so good. And then for that finale episode, it should be up probably Monday or Tuesday next week. And Ben and Mark had some very special guests to talk about that finale episode.
Yes. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I had a
getting
blast.
to talk to them about it. The four of us we broke it all down. We talked about everything you could imagine connected to movies and stuff, plus end of the series and where they could go and what we'd like to see. Yeah, it was a ton of fun to get to talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, with Podcastica, definitely want to give a shout out to the newest and maybe my favorite right now. Just, I don't play favorites. What do you mean? No, but it's because it's something so different, you know. So I won't say favorite, but you know, you got all the great TV coverage, but if you want something a little different, then look no further than Randy and Rob and Jenny's incredible brainchild here. Welcome to the Apocalypse, this improv comedy podcast where it's just improvised characters working through the apocalypse, meeting all kinds of crazy characters along the way. It's hilarious. It's really fun. Great stuff to listen to. Lots of laughs, lots of great production. Randy does so much work on the production and the sound effects and the music, and it's
the graphics.
Yeah, it's just really cool. Something to check out. So if you're into something a little different than TV, you want this great kind of improv comedy show, it's so good. And this week, of course, episode 3, they're doing it bi-weekly as far as every other week. And so episode 3 here, special guest Penny over on that one, playing the character of Kate. So definitely check that out. I haven't listened to it right now as of recording. It dropped today. But it will be listened to probably by the time you're hearing this. I'm on it. I've listened to it. But I know it's going to be great because both the first 2 episodes have been wonderful, and I'm just excited to keep going with that. So make sure to check that out. Lastly, just some shout outs outside of Podcastica. What If, again, ran from, before Christmas till right up before New Year's. And they, just released an episode a day for those 9 episodes there. All of that has been out. You can go back on Disney Plus and check those out. And make sure to also go back and look at the coverage of that show from TV Podcast Industries and Panels to Pixels. Both podcasts did a great job covering What If. So if you still need a little extra MCU fix besides Echo, go check those out as well. But yeah, lots of good stuff to go check out. But we also really want you to come check out us again next week. We love for you to come back because we'll have something fresh and new for you. Daphne, what are we doing next week?
Well, when an overachieving metropolitan cop is reassigned to a quiet, crime-free village, what could go wrong? Only everything. People disappear and the bodies pile up as Detective Nicholas Angel tries to solve crimes that are dismissed by others as simply accidents. First, there was Shaun of the Dead, and now they're back with Hot Fuzz. We are covering Edgar Wright's 2007 film Hot Fuzz, starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yes, the Cornetto trilogy. We are back with the next of that, doing Hot Fuzz. Do yourself a favor. Do everyone a favor. Go out and watch that movie and leave us some feedback for it. Do it for the greater good.
The greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we've reached the end of our episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you'd better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.